Help! My phone won't activate iMessage. Hello and welcome to iPhone Black and White Troubleshooting, where we go in and try to figure out exactly what's going wrong with your device and get you up and running as quickly as possible. In this video, we're going to be looking at problems that people run into when trying to activate iMessage on their device. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now that odds are your issue is going to be very easily fixed, and all you're probably most likely going to need to do is maybe just wait a day or two, but we'll discuss that more as we get into the video. So with that being said, let's get to it. Okay, so the first thing to kind of answer about problems that you might be running into when activating your phone is to just answer a few simple basic questions to start with, and that is this a brand new device? Is it a new iPhone, iPad, or iPod, or even, a Mac? If it is, then odds are all you need to do is actually wait, because it can actually take up to 24 to 48 hours for the iMessage server to activate. And just so you understand exactly what we're talking about and why everything else on your phone is probably going to work immediately and yet the iMessage isn't, is the easiest way to kind of think about it is think of the iCloud and then the iMessage. The two of them are kind of like the big brother, which is the iCloud, and then the little brother is the iMessage. Now, when you sign into a device, the big brother, the iCloud, he'll start working immediately. I mean, he will work immediately. As soon as you get signed in, boom, you're ready to go. The problem is with the iMessage server, he's a little bit of a brat, and so he does not want to work right away. So it can actually take up to, like I said, 24 to 48 hours for your phone number to get registered and start working correctly, and also for your FaceTime, whether it's the Apple ID, etc., etc. It can just take a little bit of time for that to get activated to start working. So if you're somebody who is watching this video and you've got a brand new device, maybe it's a new ID, maybe it's a new phone number, it may just be a new phone, then what you need to do is just be patient and then wait 24 to 48 hours. If your issue is not resolved, then come back here, watch the rest of this video, and see if there's actually something else that might be causing this to happen. Okay, so for the rest of you who may already be in a situation where like, no, hey, it was working and now it's not working, there could be a couple of simple things that may actually be occurring here. So to start with, let's go ahead and take a look at, we're just going to look at a couple different articles, and the first one we're going to look at is just to make sure that you've got everything set up correctly. So very quickly, let's look at this one. Okay, so the first article that we just want to look at is add or remove your phone number in Messages or FaceTime, and this is because you've got to make sure that you've got at least one of these activated, whether it's your phone number or your Apple ID. Again, we're always pulling our articles from support.apple.com, so we're getting it straight from Apple. And the other thing to mention here at the moment is I have one of my how-to videos, my tutorials on iMessage, where I go a lot more in depth. With this article, we are just very, very quickly going to skim through this just to make sure that you may have got everything activated, at least initially, to start with. So all we need to do to kind of get started here is first just look at set up your phone number. So on your device, all you need to do to double check and make sure is you're going to go into settings, scroll down, click on messages, and make sure that iMessage is already turned on. It should be on already, but if it's not, go ahead and turn it on. Like it says here, you might need to wait a moment for it to activate. Well, that's the problem, is if it's already turned on and it's not activating, maybe that's going to be the issue, but we'll get into that in a second. Then you want to click on tap send and receive. If you see the message where it says use your Apple ID for iMessage, tap it, and then you would sign in with your Apple ID. Again, if this is a new ID, it'll probably still take a while for this to get activated. In the you can receive iMessages section, make sure that your phone number and Apple ID are selected. And then it's sort of the same exact steps for FaceTime. You're just going to go settings, then FaceTime. FaceTime should be listed right under iMessage under settings. And then just make sure that your phone number and Apple ID are selected. And that's pretty much it. This article will also give you steps on how to remove your phone number, which again might be a good idea depending on the situation. I go through that in my iMessage video. And then that's pretty much it. Like it says here, if you can't see or select your number in Messages or FaceTime, this is where we might begin to run into some issues, but we've got another article to go more in depth here about this. But like it says here, you always want to make sure that you are running the latest software for your Mac or your iOS devices. Make sure that you correctly followed the steps that were listed above to set up your phone number, and you should be using the same Apple ID on all your devices. So if for some reason you're not getting messages on an iPad, but you are on your iPhone, make sure you're using the same ID, because that may actually be your problem. In the You Can Be Reached section of the iMessage and FaceTime, make sure that there are check marks besides your phone number and Apple ID. And that's pretty straightforward. And then it gives a few more steps here. So that's this article. Let's look at the next one. Okay, so this is the main article that we really just need to go through and just make sure that you understand. So it says, if you get an error when trying to activate iMessage or FaceTime. So this is the article that we want to go through. And this is really where people begin to run into some issues. So to use iMessage or FaceTime, you need to activate them. Well, that goes without saying. So when activating iMessage or FaceTime, you might see one of these messages. And in all honesty, I don't know why there's so many different messages, because they all kind of mean the exact same thing. But whatever, there's little nuances here, but still, if you get the message that it says waiting for activation, okay, well that basically is just saying, hey, you need to wait because we're trying to activate it through the iMessage server. Remember, he's the little brother. He takes a little bit longer to kind of get going here. If you get the activation unsuccessful, well then that means, hey, it tried to activate, but then it wasn't able to. And we'll discuss this one more in a second. And then this is where, again, it kind of gets repetitive. So an error occurred during activation. Well, that could mean kind of anything. It says, could not sign in. Please check your network connection. That's sort of the same as an error. And then also unable to contact the iMessage server. Try again. So all three of these messages kind of mean the same thing to an extent. There can be little variances here. What it most likely is meaning, if you're getting one of these messages, is that for whatever reason, the device that you have is not able to talk to the iMessage server, or you're just not able to, connect to your Wi-Fi. That there's something that's going wrong on the phone. We're going to look at one of their simple solutions here, which is something that I mentioned in another troubleshooting video about if your phone won't back up to the iCloud. Most likely your problem, if you're getting an issue where the phone is not talking to the iCloud, is that for some reason it's just kind of lost in the ether out there, and it's actually really simple to reset it, which they will cover here in a second. So moving along, check your device settings. Make sure that you are connected to either your cellular or your Wi-Fi. If you're using an iPhone, you need SMS messaging to activate your phone number with iMessage and FaceTime. Depending on your carrier, you might be charged for this SMS. It's always better to make sure that you're connected to Wi-Fi when you are first trying to activate all of these things. Now, right here is the steps that they're kind of giving. So this is something that is worth trying. Now, you only want to try it if you're getting basically one of these three error messages here. If you're getting one of these two, first one, it's just a waiting game. The second one, we'll discuss more in a moment. But if you're getting one of these three errors, definitely follow this step. What you want to do is you're going to go into settings. You will then go to general. You will then scroll down and click on date and time. And all it's saying here is that, hey, make sure that your time zone is correct. Well, that's not all you need to do. A good idea, what you would do in this situation, is actually go into settings, general, date and time, and it's probably going to show your correct time zone. So what you want to do is you want to turn off set automatically. Turn off set automatically. Then what you want to do is whatever the city is listed, so whatever time zone you're in, I want you to pick a different city in another time zone. If you're in the US, then just try to pick another city in the US. It doesn't necessarily mean go out of country, but just try to pick another city that's in a different time zone in the country that you're in, and then wait about 15 to 20 seconds and then turn on set automatically again. Okay, so turn off set automatically, then change the city to a different time zone, wait 15-20 seconds, then turn set automatically back on. When you do that, your phone should immediately switch back over and show you the time zone that you're in. That actually, in a nutshell, the way to understand what's occurring is that you're kind of resetting your phone to talk to the cell towers that are closest to you, which will allow the iCloud to kind of pinpoint your location so that it's able to kind of talk to the phone the way that it's supposed to. Don't ask me how it all works, but that's basically what's happening, and that may actually fix your issue right then and there. It just kind of depends on what your problem is. The other thing that it says here, and this is, be really careful because I'm going to explain this, because this could be really annoying and you're not going to realize what you're doing because they don't explain it here. But the next thing is to turn off and then restart iMessage and FaceTime. Here's the problem with this. If you go into settings and you go to messages and you turn off iMessage, I'm not saying don't do this. What I'm saying is if you do this, you've got to remember something. What in essence you're doing is you're turning off iMessage, which means if you've already activated your phone number, you're now telling the iMessage server to deactivate your phone number, which means you could actually be setting yourself up to have to wait another 24 to 48 hours for your phone number to get registered again. Odds are it wouldn't take that long, but it's definitely worth mentioning because a lot of people get into their heads, oh, well, iMessage isn't working. I know how to fix it. I just need to turn off iMessage and then wait a few moments and then turn it back on, and then boom, it should immediately work. It may not. And if it doesn't, it may mean, okay, now you need to wait until it fully activates again. Last thing to kind of look here is still not activated after a day. Like it says here, it can take up to 24 hours to activate. If the issue continues after 24 hours, then they want you to make sure that you follow these steps. Make sure that you are running the latest software on the device. If you're using an iPhone, contact your carrier to make sure that you can send and receive SMS messages, because there is a chance that that is what's happening. Odds are you do not need to do step 2 immediately, because odds are you are having a problem with iMessage. iMessage wouldn't have anything to do with SMS. If you don't know the difference, please watch my video where I go in depth about messages. I will link that video to this one. If you're step 3, if your iPhone is used with a carrier not found in the wireless carrier articles, make sure you can send and receive international SMS. Again, probably don't need to do that. So basically the next step is step 4, and we are going to talk about this more here in a moment. But basically after 24 hours, just make sure that you're up to date with the latest software, and if you are, then go ahead and contact Apple support. And so now let's talk about what you can probably expect when you call Apple support. Okay, so when you contact Apple support, if it's been over a day, don't be surprised if they have you go back and do some of these troubleshooting steps that you've already done, because they need to make sure that you've already done the steps that are needed. And they're definitely going to ask you, okay, well, how long have you had the phone? Was your number already activated before? Were you trying to activate, your Apple ID? But once you talk to them, what you're going to do is you're going to make sure that you give them your Apple ID so they can pull you up in their system. And then what they'll do is they will go in and kind of take a look and see if there's anything sort of funky going on with your account. Like maybe there is a problem that's going beyond just getting your device activated. Now, something that is basically happening that is more apparent over the last few years is the increased number of spam calls that people receive, and they will get a spoofed number. So it's not uncommon for people to receive spam calls where it looks like it's somebody who's calling you from their local area, or your local area, and then it turns out that that's somebody in another country, and they're just basically spoofing a number because they know you would be more likely to answer the phone if it's the same area code. So here's the downside of basically what's happening is people will end up reporting that phone number as spam, even though that's not technically the phone number that was making the call. It's a spoofed number. So what can end up happening is, through an automated system, when those phone numbers get reported, is it can actually make an individual's phone show up as a spam phone. And therefore, what can happen totally, inadvertently, is that phone number, which could end up being your phone number, is basically been flagged. So it's not a big ordeal. Odds are that's not going to happen to you. But if it does, you contact Apple support, they'll be able to kind of go in and see if there's any sort of shenanigans going on with your account or with that phone number. And if there is, then what they'll be able to do is to go ahead and kind of reactivate your phone number so that you would be able to then get activated with the iMessage server. And so then all of a sudden, boom, your messages would start working after maybe a day. And guys, usually it doesn't take that long to get your phone number activated. They say it can take up to 24 to 48 hours. Usually it does not take that long. Okay, so I said I was going to talk about the activation unsuccessful that we just saw in that article. So if that is the error message that you're seeing, then you definitely need to be someone who is contacting Apple support, because what I just got done talking about is maybe your phone number is showing up as sort of a flagged number. If that's the case, that may be why you're actually getting that activation unsuccessful, is because for some reason it's been flagged. So if that's the problem, it's really not a big ordeal. You're just going to contact Apple support, and there can be any number of reasons why a phone number may not be activated. It could be because it's a new number to you, and that number had previously been flagged for some reason. I mean, there's any number of reasons. The main thing is don't worry about it. Just call Apple support, and they'll definitely be able to help you out. By the way, I didn't mention this before, and I doubt this would be your issue, but if you've got some kind of a VPN on your phone or on your iPad, it's not a bad idea to just delete that VPN until you can activate the phone with the iMessage server, because there's always a chance that that may actually also be causing a problem. That's very rare, so I wasn't even really going to mention it, but it's at least worth mentioning because that might help one or two people here who might be seeing this. Alrighty guys, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. I hope that this was helpful, and at the end of the day, I hope you understand, you guys are going to be just fine. I don't want you to worry about getting your phone activated with iMessage. I know it can be frustrating for sure, because you want to be able to send your text messages, but I do promise that these issues are actually really easy to fix. Even if you can't fix it immediately, the people at Apple support would definitely be able to kind of take a further look. And just remember, this isn't the kind of issue that you would want to contact your carrier about when you're talking about iMessage. If you are running into a problem with sending SMS text messages, and that would be any kind of messages that you're trying to send that go strictly through your carrier and not through the iMessage server. That's when you would need to reach out to your carrier. And that's just one last thing I just want to mention here is if for some reason you're watching this video and the problem you're having is you're not able to send SMS text messages, but your iMessages are working just fine, then 100% guaranteed the problem you're having has nothing to do with Apple. It has nothing to do with the device that you're using. It's not your phone that's the problem. There is a problem that is occurring through your carrier, and they would be the ones who would need to fix it. All right, so with that being said, guys, thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video. I really do appreciate it. If you found it helpful, don't forget, hit like, hit subscribe, come on back, learn how to become an iPhone expert, and don't forget, send this video to your friends and family so I can help turn them into experts as well. Alrighty, guys, thanks so much, and I will catch you next time. See ya.